is a bad guy that you love to hate. His name means victorious or conquering, and that embodies his character very well. He has to be the winner in any conversation he's in. If he doesn't get his way, he's not happy about it and reacts with loud outbursts and cruel words. He is a chaotic, manipulative character who cares only about himself. While he's arguably fighting for the right side, he's doing it in a way that purposefully hurts our protagonist and keeps her in the dark about things she needs to know, because it entertains Vincent, because it makes him feel powerful to hold things over her. He lies to Heather, insults her family, manipulates her, keeps information from her, uses her, and even contemplates killing her. He's not a hero, yet he's not working with Claudia either. Claudia, who admits what she's doing is wrong, that she deserves to go to hell, and will have no place in the paradise she wants to make, a paradise inspired by the suffering in her own life and the helplessness she felt growing up. Vincent has none of that background. He's a priest of the order, and like many priests, he is intelligent, well-read, well-spoken, and good at using his language to manipulate people around him. Vincent is very much like the infamous preachers of today who use their platform to generate money for themselves. There are notes in the game that reveal he's been accused of corruption, blackmail, and misuse of funds. He's a man who has served the order well, but also served himself along the way. This is perfectly indicative of his personality. He only does things for others because they also help him. That's the role he plays with Heather, someone who wants her to succeed in so much as it benefits him. Vincent doesn't want the apocalypse to happen, though he expresses delight in the other world and its violence. He doesn't want a monstrous god destroying the world. He loves money and the material world. He says at one point he wishes both Claudia and Heather would die, also the end times won't come. This isn't a hero trying to save the world and the innocent girl. This is the bad guy who feels inconvenienced by the apocalypse because it'll interrupt his various crimes. Note that though he does have a chance to, Vincent never tries killing Heather himself. Even Douglas considers it at one point once he knows who she is. Vincent, however, says he hates to get his own hands dirty. He is a coward who hides behind harsh words, but flinches away from actual violence. Perhaps this is why he kept his back to Claudia and didn't see her attack coming, because he never considered Claudia wouldn't be afraid to get her hands dirty. He mentions it at one point that he's looking out for himself, because everyone does it. He can't imagine someone who's not like him. When we first meet Vincent, it's a quiet scene. Vincent's sitting behind a desk reading and takes a few moments to acknowledge Heather's there. He's very relaxed and behaving as if Heather is almost an afterthought. He introduces himself and tells Heather he's on her side. He's trying to be disarming, to convince Heather to work with him. His body language, tone of voice, and choice of words are all very manipulative. His color scheme works this way too. Brown is not a color that's stimulating or eye-catching. It's passive, relaxing, and approachable, and his entire outfit is varying shades of it. He's trying to make Heather trust him so he can direct her to do what he wants, namely, kill the god and stop the end times. It's his belief the seal of Metatron will do this, which fans of the series will know from the first game. Alessa attempted to use the seal to stop God, but it was never completed, so we have no idea if it would have worked. The item's description implies that its value and power is entirely based on the one trying to wield it. It may be that someone powerful like Alessa could make it work, but no one else could. Which ultimately is what happens. The seal fails. All of Vincent's plans and machinations come to nothing. He so firmly believed in the seal, and he was wrong, and he ends up stabbed twice and left to bleed out on the floor. He's such a confident and self-assured person who values his own voice and opinion so much he could never imagine being wrong. He self-righteously tells Heather that it's okay to kill Claudia now, offhandedly condemning someone he grew up with to death, and at the hands of a child at that. He has a child doing his dirty work, remember? But let's look back at the fact that Vincent was wrong. Why? Why have the seal at all? Why include this piece of the game? Other than adding a level to the story, the seal doesn't add anything at all. In fact, Vincent himself adds little to the game's plot. Claudia is essential. She kills Harry. Douglas gets the ball rolling by finding Heather. Arguably, Vincent doesn't do anything, other than come up with a theory that's wrong. Yet he is undoubtedly the most interesting of the supporting cast. He has a charisma and a way with words that is captivating, and that is exactly his power. But empty words without meaning are nothing, which is why all his actions come to nothing. He was wrong about the seal, wrong about Heather, wrong about everything. And in the end, his talent can't save him. Everything about Vincent is wrong. His teeth are damaged and some are missing. His eyes look in separate directions. His skin is splotchy. His expression's demented. He approaches Heather as a possible ally, but everything about him screams warning signs. Silent Hill 3 is a game about growing up as a vulnerable teenage girl in a world that is out to get you, and Vincent plays the adult male predator perfectly. No, he's not a sexual predator, but he does want to manipulate Heather into doing things that will cause her suffering and trauma to better serve his own ends. He is definitely abusive, which is why turning him into a teenager and making him a love interest in that awful movie missed the whole point. One of the worst things he does to Heather is the famous line,
"Monsters? They looked like monsters to you?"
Heather is horrified by the idea that the monsters she's been fighting might have been human. Vincent thinks it's hilarious. Abusers often invalidate the worldviews of the abused, making them distrust their own experiences so they will be easier to manipulate and hurt. This is a classic abuse tactic turned into a terrifying moment that still sends chills down my spine. There's even the possibility that he's right. Killing monsters in a second playthrough earns points towards the game's bad ending, in which we see Heather standing over Douglas's body holding a knife. She never says or does anything in this scene. Is it possible she saw him and thought he was a monster, like Vincent said? But we are talking about Vincent and why he's in the world. For one thing, why does Vincent want the god to die? He tells Heather he enjoys the other world. Clearly he loves the suffering of others, and the other world is full of that. And he manages to travel the world without ever coming into any danger. He claims not to have any powers, but he lies to Heather all the time. Heather comes to the church changed, with blood staining her shirt, but Vincent's never touched. He has to have powers of some kind to keep from being hurt in this world. He just doesn't want to use them. And since clearly he likes hurting others, I can't imagine he wouldn't use his powers to do that if he could. Clearly, while he has abilities of some sort, he must consider Claudia more powerful than him, since he never physically tries to overthrow her. But why does he want God to die? God would bring more of the suffering and violence he loves to the world, but God would also tip the balance of power. He calls it an inconvenience, something that is too impossible to predict. It's something he can't control, and he doesn't like things he can't control. If God were a monster he could create and use, there's no doubt Vincent would allow it. It's only because he's not in charge and in control that he fights Claudia. So that's why he acts the way he does. But why include him in the game? This character, along with a few others, play a valuable role. Claudia is our antagonist. She killed the protagonist's father. This hatred of Claudia is what feeds the god inside Heather and causes her both emotional and literal pain. The heart of the story is this conflict, but for the most part, Claudia acts indirectly, attacking Harry instead of Heather, and then running away in order to draw Heather back to Silent Hill. The threats that interact with Heather through gameplay aren't really Claudia's. The other world is created by God, and the monsters there act of their own accord. This includes Volteal, the creature who watches and stalks after Heather. Most of the threats she faces in gameplay have nothing to do with Claudia. The real threat against Heather is male violence. She's attacked by monsters that look like giant penises. She's followed by multiple male characters who do not have her best interests in mind. They use her, lie to her, and try to kill her. The main antagonist is Claudia, a woman who is indoctrinated by the cult and traumatized by the abuse of her father. and ultimately her actions too are influenced by male violence. Vincent's character embodies the abusive man this game is condemning. He's selfish and self centered to the point he can't imagine anyone else having a different point of view, or the possibility he could be wrong. He values himself higher than anyone else, to the point of letting a traumatized teenage girl fight his battles. He gets off on having power over others, and grows angry when people don't do what he wants. On top of it, he's a preacher, someone meant to be kind, loving, and helpful to others. This is the perfect role because it makes his true personality so much worse. He's not what a preacher should be at all, and it's so upsetting to see. He appears like a comforting figure when Heather first meets him, and for a moment it seems like she might have someone to rely on for help in this dreadful hellscape, only to be so horribly disappointed when it turns out he's the same as everyone else she's met. The only person who actively does want to help Heather is Douglas, and even he accidentally causes her harm in the beginning of the game. For one, he follows her, forcing her to hide in the bathroom. While we know later on he's a good person, at this point he's a mystery who could mean terrible things for Heather. Young women have to be suspicious of every man they meet, and this scene is all too real for so many of them. Douglas causes her harm without meaning to, as so many men do, because the cultures this game is influenced by both exist in societies where male violence has become so widespread and commonplace that every man's actions can seem dangerous in that context. But Douglas recognizes what he's done and decides to help Heather to try and protect her, since he had a part to play in her suffering. He tries to do good, and while he doesn't do much to stop Claudia, he becomes a touchstone for Heather, the one person who doesn't want to hurt her. If Vincent represents the abusive man, Douglas represents the everyman, generally good, capable of causing harm to women out of ignorance, but willing and able to learn to do better. Vincent is part of the larger web of abusive men in this game, who are all poised around Heather as threats she's forced to face. The psychological trauma of the game is rooted in this network, and Valtiel's stalking of Heather, where he's not only found multiple times in the game watching her, but is inevitably also hurting a female monster when he does. The suffering Heather faces is at the hands of male violence, and I don't understand how anyone can play this game and not see how much the themes are rooted in gendered violence. Another character I want to talk about who really isn't big enough for his own video is Stanley Coleman. Since he and Vincent have a lot in common, I'm going to talk about them here. Stanley is another peg in the wheel of abusive men in Silent Hill 3. In the hospital, Heather finds a creepy doll and a notebook with letters written to her by a man named Stanley. The letters become violent, invasive, and pretty disgusting, where he proclaims his demented love for her. Like Vincent, Stanley is convinced he is better than everyone. He claims every person in Silent Hill is fucked up except for him, of course. A note in the hospital describes him as egotistical, passive, and cowardly, all words I've used to describe Vincent. Stanley's letters claim Heather is existing for him. When Heather refuses to take the doll, he explains it away as her being embarrassed rather than being obviously upset by it. He claims she has feelings for him even if she can't see it yet. He says, "What I give to you is the same as what I give to me." Nothing in this is about Heather. It's all about him and how Heather can serve him, just like Vincent. He is always watching her, and though they never meet, seeing these notes following Heather through the hospital with no physical presence makes it feel as if Stanley is everywhere, as if he could be just around the corner, which is a very real feeling that accompanies being stalked. In the hard mode crematorium puzzle, Stanley is represented as the linnet. He seeks out her soul by his own black ambition, frightening her out of her wits, whispering love songs into her ear, what cruel linnet wants he gets. All of this could easily describe Vincent as long as you take out the love in it. Stanley is clearly disgusting and abusive in the way he forces his feelings on Heather without any thought for hers, that he values his own desires and values hers not at all. Vincent is the same way. He only cares about himself. That's the root of abusive people. They value no one more highly than themselves. There's another terribly violent male character in the hospital level, the writer of the hard level keypad puzzle. It's unknown who it is, but a Stanley note nearby says a doctor created the code, which makes sense, so it's likely a doctor writing the note. It's a disgusting, violent love letter, which includes the speaker wanting to shove his thumb in a woman's eyeball, where he clearly takes joy in the pain that causes, even as she is obviously in agony. There's another note in the hospital that implies said doctor did actually violently abuse a nurse in one of the rooms where a nurse monster is found. The note left behind is, "The chief is a pervert. Christy would have been better off if she had been fired." Here again, we have a male character using his power over others to get what he wants, ignoring the suffering it causes. What happens to these characters says a lot about the meaning of Silent Hill 3. Stanley Coleman is killed. You can find his body in the crematorium under number 7. Vincent is violently stabbed twice. Valtiel vanishes after the god is born and is never seen again. Claudia, twisted by the male violence in her life, essentially kills herself. Douglas, the only person who cared about Heather, is the only one who survives the good ending. Vincent is one of the most well-written characters in the Silent Hill canon. He is so fascinating, a dynamic, charismatic character whose role ends up being empty and useless, who dies without purpose, having done nothing of value because he has no value. He is all show, no substance, the perfect facsimile of an abusive person. He's a liar and a coward, and he gets what he deserves, but not before delivering some of the best lines and monologues in Silent Hill. He is a monster, as much as the rest of the creature catalog of Silent Hill. In fact, he might just be the worst, since he had so many opportunities to choose to be kind to Heather, and he never did.